France 24's Clovis Casali. Clovis, I'll just read you the remarks of Eduoarde Philippe. He says, it's a common past we have, a tragic past, but a common past.
Well, it's all about stressing the historical ties that are bound between France and Vietnam. And by visiting Dien Bien Phu, well, of course, it's a very symbolic time of this visit. The last time a French president went there, the place where the French troops were defeated in the Indo-China War, well, that was in 1993 with François Mitterrand. When François Hollande visited Vietnam 2 years ago, I was part of that visit following the French president. Well, he did not go to Dien Bien Phu, and that just shows that it's a sensitive place. We don't really know exactly what kind of speech Eduoarde Philippe, the Prime Minister, will be making tomorrow. Presumably, he will be saying that there is a common past, painful memories, but you have to move on. And by moving on, he also means making business, doing business. And the communist regime in Vietnam is extremely pragmatic. Vietnam is a communist regime, but that's embraced capitalism fully. They're looking to develop the economy by all means. It's got an annual growth of 7%, so you can imagine that business leaders, world leaders are keen to win markets in Vietnam. And also, there is room for improvement for France. The exchanges are rather low on the business level for the time being. So there's a lot to do there, especially with China. China's expansionist policies in the South China Sea, in the region, with the One Silk Road. There's a lot to do. Vietnam is turning away from China, given the tensions, and could turn towards France and the European Union, of course.
Yeah, it's the question we were wondering when Barack Obama visited Vietnam, which is, does Vietnam have more in common with China, its neighbor, or with the likes of former colonial power France and the United States, which waged a war there?
Well, when you look at the architecture, for one, in Vietnam, you've got French, traces of the French heritage everywhere. When you go to the French institutes, the French-speaking schools, they're full of young Vietnamese, often from the elites, who are keen to learn French. France is seen as a nation of prestige, and its language also. So that shows there's not so much resentment. And the Vietnamese are not anti-American, despite the Vietnam War, of course. Bear in mind that Vietnam was divided, of course, during those troubled times. China is heavily present, has been investing all over the region, in Southeast Asia, in Cambodia, in countries all across the region. And Vietnam, now given those territorial disputes in the South China Sea, well, can't afford to be too close to China, and is clearly turning its attention to other world players, especially now that the US, with Donald Trump, have adopted such isolationist policies, pulling out of the Trans-Pacific Treaty, for instance. Vietnam needs new players, new allies, and that could be the European Union.
All right, Clovis Casali, many thanks for that.